Hi, welcome to this week's episode. This week I thought I would talk about how I safely pose a baby in the props. When I first started out, I bought a whole lot of stuff just to buy it, to try it. I had seen some things, a posing system, what I thought was a posing system like this on Amazon and eBay, and I bought a couple of those, and they were like $13, I think maybe $17. They were under $20, and I thought, well, that might work. And I know a lot of photographers, even very famous newborn photographers, will use rolled up washcloths, towels, diapers, things like that. And that there's nothing wrong with that for sure. But I wanted something that wasn't falling off. I found that with things like the bucket, it's more, it seems more important. The parents are a little bit more worried. I'm a little bit more worried. I just want to make sure that I had something that was right. And you can put towels over it, but it just seemed like they would slip off. So I found this little system. There's a whole system actually. It's by Modest Little Me, and it's a single mom hand sewing these in Florida, and that's kind of appealing to me too. That you're supporting someone not local to me, but still in the United States, and a single mom. But this is the real thing, and I noticed that people are making knockoffs of it. But it has a nice little wire that bends. It's really soft. It's got some cushioning in here that's perfect, and then it's weighted at the bottom so that it just works perfectly. Now there's a whole system of it, and I do use those beans. Anything that's this color even has Velcro that connects with another piece that works. It just depends on what you're doing, and this more so for me is when I'm posing on the table over there. This might be for the portrait pose on the table where the table's nice and flat. And then you're just putting that support under their neck to prop them up. And I like to do this actual pose with the backlit image, a silhouette of the face. And then, you can also use it, flip it around and use it forward facing. So that's a nice little system for that. But today mostly I'm talking about the props. The bucket is the one that's more of a challenge. And so this here, you just see that it bends perfectly. First I'll say that I do have weights that go inside of these that weigh down the bucket, the bowls, the drawers, the different things. Most everything that I have is so heavy that it's not going to go anywhere. It's just an added measure of safety. And these buckets are so deep that I go ahead and put like some packing paper and some things like that in the bottom. And that's where you could use rolled up towels or something like that. That's not really mattering. That's just kind of giving it height. But this is where I see it being something like this as being very important for posing. So, the idea would be that this would be ready before you put the baby in it. And I'll say this, these things they're nice, but they're not really that beautiful. So what you would want to do is get something that covers them up. So that's just kind of draped over that. So you get the baby ready, you got the baby in your lap, and then you're safely transferring the baby here. And so maybe if it's a small baby and they're still sliding down, you grab another bean and you put it down inside there because you can see that, and you're sliding it under it. This little piece right here with a couple beans is about all I ever need for this one here. So this pose, the babies they're more comfortable here than any pose I think I've ever seen. They almost fall asleep right. They're kind of snuggled down inside that bucket, and then they just kind of like lean their little head there, and they can almost do that without any support. But most of the poses where they're sitting, they're like this. What you're doing is you're taking a picture, snapping it with this finger, maybe then going to the other side, snapping a picture. So you're always within arm's reach of it. So you got to have a good lens to do that, or maybe a parent will come and do it. But that's that pose, and that's how that's safely. And then if I want to do a forward facing one, they're usually wrapped in a potato sack, and when I wrap, I usually have 2 base wraps and then another one on top. And this is where some babies, if they're smaller, they will slide, so you got to make sure to have something down there to stop them and get them at the right height. And here, you're doing 2 things. You're making sure you have the right support for the baby and the right angle. And see, a lot of photographers do this and it looks like they're standing up in the bucket. And it really just depends on how well you do it at positioning them. Because the idea is you want them leaning back a little bit so that their chin is not mushed down, and they've got a double chin. They're going to have a double chin anyways. But that your chin and their whole face is showing. You want their whole beautiful, I mean, that's the whole idea. It's not to say, look at this cute bucket they're in. It's to take a picture of the baby. So you want to make sure that you've got it to where they're leaned back enough that their little chin is up. But not so much that all you're doing is seeing up their nose. So it's just kind of playing around with it and getting it in there. And like I said, when you have about 3 wraps on the baby, that's support for their neck. But occasionally I'll have a baby that's, you know, they're just leaning. So then that's when you would just, maybe if they're leaning to the side, I just would get a bean underneath of everything else, and you're getting it to where you can't see it, but it helps the baby to just be at the right position, to the right lean, and things like that. Now also, if you can also place a little pillow inside the wrap. Now this doll is smaller than a regular newborn, but if the baby was wrapped, and you put that under there, that's also going to give support, and then you just tuck the wrap around it to where you're not really seeing it, but something like that gives extra support to the baby's chin, to help them prop that little chin up and to have more support. So the bucket, like I said, is probably the most challenging. And then we have, let's have the bowl, would be the next thing. I almost use this bowl almost every session just because I like it. And it's just nice and round. The bowl itself almost gives support. Again, you can use this posing system here, and it works pretty good because the bowl itself is giving it, and you're just wanting to get that little head up a little bit and support that neck. They're not really going to go anywhere. They're not going to roll out of it, but you want their head at the right angle. And you can do this, or you can get this big one. If it's a really tiny baby, or you're having trouble, then you can always add that. And again, the idea is that you would cover that up to where you can't see it, and then you're placing the baby in there. Like this would be too much. So you're just kind of playing, sorry about that. You're just kind of playing with that, and there you go. So that's the bowl and the bucket. Something like this, the beds are kind of the same. The beds were, you're just kind of the same thing. They work the same way as the bucket. The beds are a little bit, you don't have a side to them, so you have to really make sure that they're going to be angled at the right angle. That's where this one comes in a good. Something like this is a little more challenging because you do not want this to really show. Like I bought this little couch because I think it's beautiful, and the sides sort of do protect it, so you just kind of look at that and you kind of determine on the baby, the age of the baby. Now this is big enough that a sitter could sit on it and be perfect. A 3-month-old would be great on here and it could hold their own neck up. A newborn, you're still going to have to place that bean just right, and then you're just going to have to play with, depending on the baby, the size of the baby, maybe something like that. And again, you're going to make sure you grab something, and this is all sorted out before a session so that it's ready to go. You know, you get an idea of what colors the parents want or what type of thing they want, and then you're just kind of doing that to where it's not showing. But that's it. It's basically learning to use the right pieces, parts. Also, like with the potato sack wrap, where they're on the flokati, this is a good one to use because they're just, this is the perfect posy, comes out of Australia. It's perfect because they just go in like a little hole, and that's not so challenging. It's just kind of easy. I also have another prop that's never been used by a cat, of course. I bought this brand new off of Amazon from an idea from another photographer. And you're covering it up. I don't have the flokati right here, but it's covered so you're not seeing it. So then you're putting the baby here, and you can see that the baby its little back is completely supported. and this is usually when they're wrapped. But then that just creates, you know, you're taking it at the right angle, and it's just perfect. They're able to hold their little head up, and again, you're using the wrap as a support system. And then sometimes you will have to push some little beans in there beside them or underneath of them, and you know, you're just making sure they're safe and secure. So there's just odd little things that you can use to pose them. You can actually use this thing both ways, and this way they can kind of lean back at a curve. So you can see you have a lot of different ways of posing, but the idea is to keep them supported and at the right angle. So I hope that's been informative, kind of shorter this week. If you got any questions, let me know. Let me know if you have any creative ideas for something that you've seen another photographer do, or if you learned something new, let me know. And remember, if you're doing this at home, please make sure the baby's safe. That's the everything. Taking the picture at the right angle with the light coming down across the baby's face, making sure you can get their whole face, and never shooting to where all you see is nose holes, and just keeping the baby safe. And if you're doing anything like this with your own newborn, get some washcloths and roll them up to mimic things like this. But I think that's it, and I'll see you next week.